Dr. Johnny Phillips with the Junior Achievement of New Jersey, where we prepare students to succeed in the global economy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mohammed Rasheed, and I work at Merck in the corporate audit insurance group. And I'm excited to be able to have a discussion with everyone today.
Mohammed, thank you. For taking the time and sitting down with me and sharing some insight for our students. It means a lot, right? So to start, would you be able to share your job story, meaning any jobs you've had in the past? You can start with the first job you ever had, different skills you learned through there, and how you ended up in your role now at Merck.
Yeah, definitely. So my first job was as a cashier in a supermarket where I started in high school. And I worked there for high school and college. And I had the opportunity to get to know the people really well. And they actually found out that I was majoring in accounting in college, and they recommended that I apply to their corporate internships. So they have accounting internships in their corporate offices. So I had opportunity to do that for summer while I was still in college, and I learned a lot. It was an accounting position, so I got to learn a lot about the basic applications of accounting. It really correlated to what I was studying at the time in school. So it was kind of very interesting to apply and learn at the same time. But after that, I got an internship at KPMG, which is a public accounting firm.
Okay.
And I got an audit internship. From there, I got a full-time offer to be an audit associate, which I worked there for 2 years. And then after that, I applied for Merck. Now, the position I applied for Merck was an internal audit. So it's pretty much the job application was very similar, except I was working internally inside the Merck corporate audit and insurance group.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So not so much the sector that you're working in was the interest, but being around accounting and finance and doing the auditing stuff behind the scenes is where you find your interest, right? But you touched on something very, as soon as you started with the relationships you built in the supermarket, and then getting an internship offered through that process. Can you touch on the importance of internships and maybe the importance of relationship building and networking throughout your part-time jobs or in your day-to-day life?
So networking is something I'm very passionate about. In the story I told, something I didn't mention, how everything was connected to the next job I got.
Okay.
So it's kind of a funny story. So when I was working at the supermarket I mentioned, it was ShopRite. There was someone who also worked there who was at KPMG, who was working in KPMG, who had previously worked at ShopRite. We had bumped into each other previously. And then he came back to, the supermarket one day. He was visiting. We caught up. I found out he was working at KPMG, which is somewhere I wanted to pursue. So what he had done was he recommended me to take that internship I mentioned in the corporate office in the supermarket. So ShopRite has corporate offices. So he recommended me do that. And he also recommended me to apply for the KPMG internship right before I graduated.
Okay.
And he put in a good word for me, right? So, networking is so important because you have these connections that can put in a good word for you or a referral. He helped me find out about 2 career opportunities, which I was able to take advantage of both. So that's kind of the first part of the story. And now when I was at KPMG and I was transitioning to pursue an opportunity at Merck, I found out about Merck because there was one time when I was working at KPMG where I was riding the bus, and there was someone on the bus that I knew from college. And we hadn't seen each other for a few years. We were catching up and we were talking. And he mentioned that he knew someone from KPMG, like the job I was currently working in, who had left. He gained a career at Merck, an internal audit group, and he was working on very interesting projects where they travel globally to work in different assignments. And you get to the aspects of kind of working in a global company. He was learning a lot. And the more my friend was talking about it, about this person who had left to pursue this career, the more interested I was getting. So I'd asked him, hey, connect me to this person that was at KPMG. And it was fun. And I found out it was someone that was in my department at KPMG. We were in the same group. So there's someone else who connected me to to another person. I reached out to him. He told me about the opportunity and he encouraged me to apply. And he also put in a good word for me because we had interacted with each other previously.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of the moral of the story, you will never know the next time like you run into somebody and
Mm.
they either will kind of steer you in a direction or recommend you to go in another direction. Because everything I've done so far was based on exactly what we talked about in networking.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's really interesting. And thank you for sharing your personal story and not just, advice on how to network and what to do. It's like, this is what I bumped into somebody at the supermarket. I was on the bus, with my headphones in and had
yeah,
this,
exactly.
conversation with someone. So thank you for sharing that information or that feedback and that experience. And I don't mean to keep going back to your time in the supermarket and your experience there, but do you feel there was a certain skill set that you learned from working in the supermarket that allowed you to network in a way
Yeah.
that has been effective?
So working in a supermarket was probably one of the best jobs that I've gotten in terms of the soft skills I learned because you just learn to interact with people. And people have different kind of interactions, their perspectives, and you can't interact with everyone the same way. Some people, they prefer some people love small talk. They don't want to start any kind of transaction or initiation of anything until you kind of, start something light and then get into the topic you want to talk about. Some people are just very direct. So,
Yeah.
kind of those examples, it really teaches you how to talk with people and be comfortable talking with people, which is very, very important.
Hmm.
So when I had like friends or colleagues who mentioned that they were cashiers or waiters or worked in like jobs that required a lot of interactions, like you can see how effective it was in teaching them in interacting with people, which is very, very important. So I think it's one of the best things that you can do to really hone in on your soft skills.
Okay. Right. So soft skills, right? Right then and there, being able to interact with people and communicate with people based off of who they are and how you recognize that they approach the situation. Right. That's really important. And I'm wondering, now that I've talked with a chunk of the audit team at Merck, um, if you're finding that these soft skills are very useful in audit work as well, because I know you guys mentioned I'm traveling to different places and working with international clients. Is auditing something that is a lot of interpersonal connection, or a lot of numbers? How would you describe the line of work?
So I'm glad you asked this question because if you had asked me when I first majored in accounting why I did it, I would
Hmm.
have said I'm very I'm very like very shy. I just want to kind of do math because I really like math.
Yeah.
I was introverted. Accounting, I feel like, is anything but that because there's so much interactions that go take place between key members. When you do audits, for example, you really have to have discussions and understanding of the processes that take place. And whatever you have in your findings and the work that you do, you need to communicate that. Communication is important regardless of what career path you pursue. And for me, it took a while for me to get out of my shell. Like I wasn't always good at talking to people. It took me a long time. And it happened through experience. You learn through experience. Um, so yeah, those soft skills, like they will always be applicable no matter what career path you pursue. From when I first started, my part-time job in high school and college to, working at Merck and traveling globally to these different stakeholders. They all have different cultures. They all have different perspectives, and it's very enriching. At first, for me, I was very intimidated. I was very scared. But once you have that experience, you find how enriching and enjoyable it is to get to know and learn more about people and have a chance to interact with them.
Yeah. Right. So taking the time as well to understand people and use your skills to your advantage and be able to put that stuff in use. That's really important, right? And it's really powerful. So thank you for touching on that aspect of accounting where you have to describe what it is that you're doing, what you're learning to people who might not know, who might not care. As we've mentioned in other videos. So that's really important. Thank you for that. So to end off, if you can go back, right, and give your younger self any piece of advice, what do you think you would say, and what kind of advice do you think you needed at the time?
I think the one piece of advice I would probably tell myself would be to be more open-minded, to be more willing to challenge yourself in doing new things. So for me, like I mentioned, I had very hard time in public speaking, interacting with people, especially if it was the first time I was meeting with people. And it took me a while through like I mentioned, you learn through your experiences. But one thing I wish I did earlier on was pursue opportunities that would allow me to do that. So one example I can give, there's a program that different organizations have. It's called Toastmasters, which is a program that you can participate in and practice your public speaking.
Okay.
So someone for myself, I wish if I had the opportunity, I would have joined that organization, in college or, when I started working, just so I can get more comfortable speaking publicly, interacting with people. But there's other programs as well that maybe you want to pursue to increase your knowledge or increase some kind of skill or capability that you hope to learn more about.
Hmm. And you said it was Toastmasters.
Yep, Toastmasters.
Definitely make sure to write that down and provide that because public speaking is something that can stop someone from giving the best presentation of their life. If they have the best report, they just have to be able to communicate that, right, and use those soft skills to get that message across and get people on board. So that's really useful resource and really useful information. And I know there's a handful of young people and students that can take that and run and help themselves with that process. So Mohammed, I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to talk with me for a little bit. We say time is one of the most valuable things you can give, and from Junior Achievement, we really do appreciate you. I'm looking forward to communicating with you in the future.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.